What's up, bike mechanic family? Danielle here, neutralsupport.net, bringing you another tool short. Today I'm going to talk to you about Pedro's star nut setter. So a star nut setter seems like something that would be pretty simple to make. It seems like they should all work, but they don't. The Pedro's one is actually, in my career, my third star nut setter, and it took me this long to get one that actually works every time, never fails. So I love it, I paid for it, and I want to tell you about it. So this is the Pedro's star nut setter. So you might think all star nut setters do the same job the same way, but they don't.
I see. You sure you just haven't made thousands of mistakes?
Three things need to happen for a star nut setter to do its job well. It needs to keep the star nut square to the fork, so that's what this is for. The guide here actually rests on the steerer tube so that the star nut can't travel at an angle. They contact the star nut in a small space, so I had a star nut setter initially that had a bigger punch here, so it actually was wider on the star nut. If you look at the star nut here, it has these tongues on the outside that need to be able to collapse as it goes into the steerer tube. So if there's too much contact area here, there's no room for the star nut itself to flex so that it'll actually go in. So multiple times with that other star nut setter, I actually broke these tabs right off of the star nut while I was installing it. I realized that was the problem. That's when I moved on to another tool. So this Pedro's tool does a good job. This is only 13 millimeters here. So the Pedro's tool allows those tabs to fold while it's being installed, so they won't have the risk of breaking off like previous tools. So the third thing it needs to do is limit how far the star nut can go in perfectly. So with this guide, it actually has a top out here. So when this hits the bottom, boom, it's supposed to be the right distance into the fork. So that's key. If you have the kind that doesn't have a guide like this and it's just a hammering punch, you can drill the star nut A at an angle, but B too far into the fork. So that's what this is protecting you from. So the Pedro's tool does all the things that I want, plus they advertise it as being one-handed. So you don't have to hold the tool while you're doing the hammering. It sits on there all by itself, so you don't have to worry about it. So let's install a star nut. So this is Lieutenant Dan.
But you ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan.
So you see in the steer tube, I've actually machined a window so that we can look at the star nut once it's installed, see how deep it goes, and then just see what's inside there, because why not? One thing that I like about this is how far out this threaded piece goes. So if you look at the threads here, they stick out past the end of the tool. So I've had previous tools where they have a guide like this, but the threading is actually completely recessed. So when you're installing the star nut, it ends up all the way inside. So it's hard to get to, hard to manage. Whereas this has a long enough grub screw here that you can actually screw in the star nut on the outside, and you can see it, and then you can still grab it. So one thing too, if you have a tool that has the shorter kind, it is a grub screw, so I've never tried this, but you might be able to replace the grub screw with a longer one to negate that problem. So let's install it. So our star nut is installed, and you can see how far down it is here in the window. The threaded portion looks like, so 15 millimeters down. There will be plenty of room to thread in a top cap, so you don't have to worry about it. It's not too far down, not too close to the top that it's going to pull out. So it's actually pretty good.
Pretty good.
If you look carefully, you can actually see how the flaps fold up when they're inside the steerer tube. So they're already a little bit conical when you start, then they fold up a little more as the star nut gets pushed in. So pretty neat.
How cool.
So that's the Pedro's star nut setter. They had one that had kind of a matte finish, and it wasn't labeled this way. It was only labeled 1 1/8. So I think this is the updated one, but the finish is very good. It has a nice bevel. Like I said, the knurling, so that when you're done, you can actually grab this to unthread from the star nut instead of having to try to get it to do something crazy. So it does really work well. It's only 2 pieces, very simple. Crazy how just like a little bit of engineering, paying attention to how big this should be, making the grub screw a little longer so that you can actually thread onto it. Just like very small changes that make this tool head and shoulders above all of the competition that I've used so far. So thank you, Pedro's. This tool is awesome. I love it. Everyone should have one, and it works every time. Thank you for watching this tool short. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. I'm just gonna keep doing these. Let's get real. I like tools. I like telling you about them. Most of them I buy myself because I just think they're so great. I spend a lot of time combing through catalogs and catalogs of tools, but If you see something that you think is neat, please do tell me, because I'd love to see it. You might even see it show up on the World Wide Web. Head over to neutralsupport.net. We've got cool swag and stuff that helps me keep buying tools and feeding my terrible habit. Hope you guys have a good day.